I'm going to read a poem. It is from this collection, Impermanence, Mindfulness and Joy, which is a wonderful selection. I've had this out and about for a couple of years now, and just pull it out and kind of open it up and read. This poem came up last week, and it's just transfixed me. It's by A.R. Ammons, and it's called The City Limits. So I'm going to read it, and then we'll talk about the poem, we'll talk about the book, we'll talk about impermanence, and we'll see what else comes up. Okay, The City Limits. When you consider the radiance, that it does not withhold itself, but pours its abundance without selection into every nook and cranny not overhung or hidden. When you consider that birds' bones make no awful noise against the light, but lie low in the light as in a high testimony. When you consider the radiance, that it will look into the guiltiest swervings of the weaving heart and bear itself upon them, not flinching into disguise or darkening. When you consider the abundance of such resource as illuminates the glow blue bodies and gold-stained wings of flies swarming the dumped guts of a natural slaughter or the coil of shit, and in no way winces from its storms of generosity. When you consider that air or vacuum, snow or shale, squid or wolf, rose or lichen, each is accepted into as much light as it will take, then the heart moves roomier. The man stands and looks about. The leaf does not increase itself above the grass, and the dark work of the deepest cells is of a tune with May bushes, and fear, lit by the breath of such, calmly turns to praise. Oof. So first there's a big shift in the poem, right? The first, you hear, when you consider this, when you consider this, when you consider that the bird's bones, when you consider the guts and the shit, then the heart moves roomier. So the act of illumination that comes from kind of the grace of radiance, right? No matter what, squid or wolf. That's a great title for a piece, actually. Squid or wolf. The light shines on it. Is the light God's grace? Could be. Is the light awareness? Could be. Is the light self-illuminating? Could be, right? That's kind of part of the Dzogchen practice. Clarity and illumination in the moment. It's self-illuminating phenomena. But either way, no matter what, there is a radiance upon and within these objects. And at the end, the fear turns to praise. That is such an important and powerful shift. Fear is constraint. Praise is magnanimity, right? Fear is attachment to a limited sense of self, of world, of possibility. And praise is openness, authenticity, magnanimity, generosity, kindness, right? One thing that struck me is this, so the impermanence. Okay, so let's take a step back here. We'll come back to the poem in a minute, but often when we talk about impermanence, it can shift us into fear, right? Nothing is here. I'm going to lose everything. my life, my loved ones, my material possessions are all impermanent. I'm going to lose them. But that's a misunderstanding of the sense of impermanence, right? The real sense of impermanence leads to the four immeasurables. Joy is one of the four immeasurables. Kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. So follow this. Impermanence. You and I share the human attribute, the attribute of all phenomena, human or otherwise, that we are impermanent. And yet here we are in this moment, this radiant moment, right? If your awareness is so refined that we can see in the instant the process that we are, the impermanence is change. And maybe it's the friction of that change that radiates it, illuminates it, not radiates it. We're not uranium. Radiance is it. I like that. Turn the noun into for radiances. The radiance full. The radiance fullness of the moment is apparent at the same time as the immediacy of the impermanence. And so from that comes a desire to alleviate suffering, which is also the desire that everyone should experience joy. We can go back and forth, which is precedent over the other, but it seems to me that they're the same side of the same object, right? One side of a one-sided, I don't know. Two sides of a one-sided, I don't know. Kind of transcending out into multiple dimensions is this, the impact of recognition of impermanence. Okay, so radiance is joy. Joy is not just physical pleasure. Joy is not just happiness that something went my way. Joy is cosmic. Since I just finished a video about conversations with Olivia Messiaen, right? And talked about well, I don't want to spoil the thunder for that video either, but talked about divine cosmic love, which, I don't want to spend my time saying what radiance means, because what this poem does is you experience it. It's such a wonderful process in the poem. When you consider the radiance, that it does not withhold itself, but pours its abundance without selection into every nook and cranny not overhung or hidden. When you consider that birds' bones make no awful noise against the light, but lie low in the light as in a high testimony. When you consider the radiance, that it will look into the guiltiest swervings of the weaving heart. That's a good line too, isn't it? Just the sound of it, the guiltiest swervings of the weaving heart. A.R. Ammons, I don't know anything about him, or in the brief biography mentions that they were in the same group or similar to Frank O'Hara. Frank O'Hara is a poet that there was a time in my professional life where I was traveling to New York. Well, I live in Pittsburgh, but I would spend 3 days a week in New York working there, and I didn't know anybody and I didn't go out, but I would often stop in the Barnes & Noble that was right next to the office. I don't think it's there anymore. And there was a book of the collected poems of Frank O'Hara, and I would read this one about a serial killer called Henry, or Harry. And I still mean to return back to that poem because it was gripping. but I can feel the same magnetic physicality to this poem. The guiltiest swervings of the weaving heart. That's also, it reminds me of sort of the, I don't want to just keep taking too many tangents, but it has that feeling of like an Auden poem. Right? Lay your, sorry, lost it for a moment there. Not flinching into disguise or darkening. So the radiance never darkens and it never disguises itself. The abundance of such resource as illuminates the glow blue bodies and gold-skinned wings of flies swarming the dump guts of a natural slaughter or the coil of shit. We were just in Philadelphia last month. My wife and I live here in Pittsburgh. My daughter lives in Philadelphia. We went out there for a concert, for the Mahler concert I talked about. Go watch that video. And just out everywhere is piles of human shit. It's gross. And I kind of want to say that Pittsburgh isn't like that, but I don't actually get into downtown anymore. Or when I do, I go right to the office door. So it could be a lot worse than but there's radiance. I talked about radiance in the Messian video as stained glass. And I just finished reading Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. And at sort of a pivotal moment in that book, he talks about a painting, a green canvas with a stripe of orange day glow. And it's the most expensive painting in Midland, Texas? I don't know. I don't know if we know what state Midland is in. The artist is there, and everyone thinks it's a joke. And he comes up and says, no, it is the radiance, and the radiance of an individual is called the martyrdom of St. Anthony, sorry. And it is. It's radiant. On the wiki page, there's someone recreated it. And throughout then the rest of the book, once that idea is introduced, this idea of the humans as radiance. We have radiance within us. And we have that capacity then of turning fear, which is constraint, constriction, attachment, anger, jealousy, all of those that obscure our nature, that come from this sense of attachment to a self that is a process, not a thing. That's what impermanence means. And then from that comes joy, the joy of incarnation. Turns to praise, songs of praise, Vajra songs. If I could articulate what I want the music I write to do, it would be praise with that sense of articulating the joy of radiance. Anyway, fantastic poem. As always, any questions, corrections, comments? If you know more about A.R. Ammons, let me know. This is a wonderful book. I might pick some more out of here. So, thank you. Keep your wits about you.